Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Guido, and today I'm going to help you on figuring out why exactly you might not be closing as well on calls, on sales calls. So, if you have an abnormally low close rate, like 10% to even up to 20, or you feel like you're taking a lot of calls, but they're not really going anywhere, right? The follow-ups they're not showing, or they don't have the money, or there's a bunch of problems. This video is for you. Okay, it's going to help clean all of that up. And so, yeah, hope you're having an amazing day, and let's get straight into it. If you are a coach wanting to get to 50K per month with AI and sales teams and ultimately get your time back, right? So you don't have to be crazy about your business all the time, then feel free to subscribe and leave a like, please. So let's get straight into it. So the topic today is why are you not closing as much? Okay. So one concept is you're not good enough at sales. Okay, and we'll just take that out of the way because that's not the point of this video. But perhaps you're not, right? Perhaps you just need to review your calls and see what you could do and learn how to do objection handling better, learn how to ask questions better, and learn how to show up with the right energy on the call better. Okay, I'll leave that as that. I have another video for that, so ask me if you need it. The second thing is, or it's called like how to make 83,333 per month with this closing script. Okay. The other reason is because the people that are coming on the calls are not prepared for it. Okay. Or are not the right people to be on the calls. Okay. And let me explain. So let me share my screen. So the first thing is like when people are showing up to the calls, they need to be sold on on two things. Okay. On three things actually. Um, Sold on three things and prepared for the fourth one. Okay. So first of all, they need to have the money, right? Like even if they could have the money in the future, I wouldn't say that call is amazingly like the best one to take. If you know you can collect the deposit, maybe that's a good one to take, especially if you don't have a lot on the calendar. But what's going to dictate of like who you bring onto the call is how much your calendar is filled up, right? If your calendar is not full at all, and you want more calls, then you might as well take calls with people, even if they might not have the money, right? But if you're up to the brim, you have to. You cannot take those calls, right? You need to prioritize others. So that's the first thing. They need to have the money on the call. Second thing is they need to have a clear problem for themselves and ideally also a clear goal, right? So a clear gap that is making them feel like they have this, internal resistance, making them wanting a solution, right, to help them break from that. Okay. So that's really it. This third thing that you want to have is they need to be sold on your story and your authority as a person, right, in the niche. So if you help people lose weight, they need to be sold that your story is something that resonates with them, right? And on top of that, that they see you as an authority in their eyes, right? Like, oh yeah, you've helped a lot of people. You went from this to this. That's an amazing transformation. I want to do the same, right? And that's which connects to their gap, right? And the fit of the client. So that's also important. And then the fourth thing is they need to be sold on your vehicle, okay, in your specific approach to their problem, right? And so, for example, if you want to get to Hawaii, you could go by boat, by plane, or by sailing boat. I don't know, like whatever options there are, right? Like by helicopter. Um, all of those could be okay or good even, but ultimately you want to pick the one that that your approach that you think is best, and then sell it compared to the others, right? Why it's better. And so that's going to, even if it's like, and that's more for like solution aware people, right? If you've never gone to Hawaii, you don't even know that you could go by boat, plane, or by helicopter, right? But if you could just say, hey, you want to go to Hawaii? Yes. And here's a plane. You could go, a plane is really cool because this, and that. They don't even need to compare to the others. They just need to be sold on the plane. Okay. That's a lot simpler depending on the offer, right? But those are the four things. They need to have the money. They need to be sold on their story and authority. They need to have a problem, a gap, basically, and they need to be sold on your vehicle. Okay. Ideally, there's two more things. One more thing, which is they need to be willing to invest in the mentor instead of trying to do it themselves. But you could also solve that on the call. But those five things, if you can have that before the call happens, it's going to make things so much easier. So the question is, how do we make that happen? Well, there's two things, right? Um, and before I go into that, right, like if people are showing up on the call not having a clue about those five things, or they're kind of lukewarm about those five things, you will have like a hard time closing them. Okay, a harder time at least. And so because you're gonna have to do the job of a marketer on the call and then of a salesperson. So it just complicates the process and it makes it longer, which then leads to leads to issues, right? Because then the call might take longer, and now you have to split it into two, and then there's a no-show rate on the second call. So there's a ton of issues that come from that, right? And also the compliance on the calls and the questions is also lower. So to make it easier for you, there's two ways you can do it. One is the general content that you have on the profile, right? Your content should be helping people take them from problem awareness all the way to solution and vehicle awareness before the call happens, so that they have an idea about your specific approach and those five things, right? They can't do it themselves. They have the money, right? Or they have to save the money. Um, that one is hard to do with the content, but you could say in terms of like you need to invest high ticket in order to get results, right? That's a good play. Then you want to have the gap, right? They need to understand their problem and their goal, what they're looking for. Then what did I mention before? Story and authority, right? They need to be sold on you as a person, relate to that, and your authority, right? Why you would be able to help them, and then ultimately they need to trust your vehicle. That's the best way for them to get there, because your vehicle is not you, right? It could be you if you don't have a clear vehicle, right? Your approach in a way, but ideally you have something separate to that, so that when you scale further, you can scale with that idea. So that's in content. And then you want to apply those five things as well to a video that they have to watch after they book a call, right? That's super important as well. Because those five things, if they watched it on the video and actually watch it, right? Not like half watch it, either like stopping at the middle or like being distracted while watching it, then they will also be more prepared for the call. So make it easier for yourself and create that thank you video that they have to watch before the call. And then once you hop on the call, you want to ask them if they watched the video. If they didn't watch the video, or they kind of watched the video, reschedule it. Don't take that call. Just unless, of course, you don't have that many calls in the calendar and you might take the call anyways, right? But basically, you need to start taking a lot more calls. So basically, that's what I would recommend. Okay, because like people think that at scale the numbers are going to work the same as if you're booking like 5 calls a week, but it's not, right? Like all those coaches that tell you like, oh, per week you need to book 5 calls, and out of those 5 calls everybody's going to show up, and everybody's going to be qualified, so you're going to close 2 out of 5, so that's how you get 2 closes a week. Well, yes, maybe you can get 1 week that works like that, or at very low level you can work that, but you're going to be stuck at 1 to 2 closes per week for a really long time. In reality, you probably need to book like 50 calls a week to just get 4 to 5 closes a week, honestly, because from those 50 calls, they are not all qualified, right? You can cancel up to 50%, and then there's a no-show rate, and then there's an efficiency rates, right? Because you can have booked follow-ups in your calendar and people that, like, for example, in your day, for the next day, you might have 5 slots, but that doesn't mean everybody can book for let's say 4 are taken, right? And 1 is open at 1 p.m. But that doesn't mean that the people that are trying to book in will be able to be available at 1. So what happens is that there's a lot of times that 1 slot is not even going to be taken, right? At least 50% of the time. Plus, one of the slots might be taken by follow-ups from previous days. So all those things combined are going to get to a place where it's like, it's just not ideal, right? And so that doesn't, it's not that it's not ideal, honestly. It's part of the inefficiency of the process of scale. And so because that, you have to count with all those numbers, and for that you need a lot more calls. So that's really it. um I hate to break it to you, but that's really it. But because of that, that also allows you to cancel more calls. So you feel like, oh, now I'm booking 40 calls a week and it's a lot, but like I see that a lot of calls that are showing up, they're not they're not financially qualified, they don't have good credit, so they wouldn't even be able to get like funding or things like that. You need to cancel them, right? So what you need to do is not cancel because they said this certain thing on the form. You want to work backwards. So you want to look at all your calls, right, that you had the last 2 weeks, ideally as long as possible, right? But let's say the last 4 weeks. Look at all your calls. What happened at the end? Was it truly just X objection, right? And so from those people, then you look at those forms that they before the call and look at what answers did they put in the questions. And obviously you need to have good questions in the first place, which I can make a video about that too. Um, from their answers that they put in the forms, you can then tell that everybody that puts these types of answers, they end up doing this on the call. But here's the caveat, okay? Like you can't just conclude that based on like the people that didn't close because of X objection. You now need to look at the positive side as well, because if people that in the positive side also have put those same type of answers, that means that that's not the reason why they're showing up like that on the call. And there's something else in the form, or maybe nothing in the form, that will be telling you how those people will show up on the call. So don't just look at, oh, okay, everybody that didn't close put this on the form, so that means no. You have to check all of the calls, all of the forms, right, to compare, because it might be a false positive or negative, whatever you want to put it in whatever way. So it's going to be uncomfortable to cancel more calls, right? You will feel bad in the beginning. It's normal. Uh, People will be disappointed. Some, might get disappointed or even mad. Like, why did you cancel my call? It has to be done. I don't care, right? Because like it's like when people talk about like oh, you have too many reminders, right, for people to show up. Like that, it's just annoying. I'm going to cancel the call. Like, okay, cancel, that's okay. Like, because if one person out of 100, right, complains that there are too many reminders, but because of that we increased our show rate by 10%, it's incredibly worth it to just like do that. Like, I'm not going to change just because one person got mad, right? Unless, of course, there's a lot of people getting mad or people hopping on calls and they're like mentioning that all the time. That's different, right? But it's like it's risk versus reward. Like it's clear that it's advantageous to just do that, to have more reminders. So same thing about canceling. Like if we need to cancel, we'll cancel. The best thing about it is that you want to be human about it, right? So um, you want to cancel up to 70%, right? I even up to 80% sometimes in B2C like offers. And for example, right, if they don't have the money, it doesn't matter how good you are at sales, you're still not going to close, right? So you want to cancel up to that 70% of calls. And when you cancel, the only thing you have to do to make it smoother is have an automatic cancellation message that gets sent out to them through email, and also message them on Instagram saying like, hey, I'm sorry, I had to cancel the call because of X reason, right? I guess how do you mean by that? Just to see if I can even help and point you in the right direction, right? You can just make it in their favor instead of being against them. Like, oh, you're not worth my time because you don't have the money, right? And so you can still point them to the right direction and solve their problem. And if they have a good head on their shoulders, they'll see that it's for their benefit as long as you put it that way, right? Again, perception, not necessarily what it is actually. Like canceling is harsh in a way, right? It's pretty definitive, but the perception could be actually good. It's like when you can't cut cancer out, it's like that's pretty invasive and aggressive, but it's actually a good thing, right? So if you put it that way to them, then they will understand, at least the people that matter. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how I would look at as canceling more calls and qualifying before. That's going to make your calls a lot easier. So I'd highly recommend to do that. If you have any questions, let me know. And again, if you want to scale to 50K per month with AI and sales teams, then reach out to me on Instagram. But I hate to be pitched, so I'm not going to try to sell you anything. If you want to have a conversation, we can. If not, totally fine. So regardless, I'm posting as much free content as I can. So have an amazing week and talk to you soon.